the Supreme Court has approved broad sweeps that racially profile people in the country, and that's going to certainly give these immigration officials a lot of flexibility. They can't federalize the police anywhere but Washington, D.C. So there's some of the intrusions that we've had here in Washington won't be happening in Chicago or Los Angeles or other cities.
David, let's talk about here in D.C. because critics have been very vocal, worried about the effect on tourism, reduced business activity, relocation of marginalized communities. Do you think that this has been true? And what other cities can they expect to kind of fall in this? I mean, because it's all still pretty fluid right now.
Yes, DC is a little different. Obviously, it's the nation's capital. It's not part of any state, so it has less legal protection against the federal government than any other city in the country. And the federal government could, for a month, take over the DC police, which they did. In every other city, the city retains control of its own police. Also, in other cities, they can only pursue federal matters, which these days seems to be immigration, whereas in D.C., the federalized police could arrest people for any offense at all. So the scope of the takeover everywhere else will not be as complete as it was in D.C.
Okay, so the scope isn't going to be as vast, but what about Chicago? Could its Metropolitan Police be involved in rounding up people that ICE or the Trump administration believes really need to be deported from the United States? Could they be pressed into that role? We know that Chicago and Illinois have had a number of very vocal, powerful leaders, but is that really doing anything?
They can't take over the police. They could flood the area with federal agents, but they can't take over the police. And federal agents are very expensive. So the Trump administration is fond of making political shows. It did it in Los Angeles. It did it in D.C. It's apparently going to do it in Chicago, but they can't do that everywhere. They don't have the resources. They don't have the agents. And there are urgent problems that they're neglecting when they flood these cities with excessive numbers of agents.
Okay, so here in D.C., enforcement is meant to end this week, but there will still be guard troops present. So really, what happens next? I mean, it is very pricey, as you mentioned, and this is an administration that came in saying that they were going to drain the swamp, cut federal spending.
Well, they have cut federal spending on health care for people who need it, and on food assistance for people who need it, and on foreign aid that kept many people alive around the world who were getting nutrition or care against disease. So they have cut there, but they're then being very profligate in other areas. Certainly having very expensive National Guards people in D.C. literally picking up litter because there isn't any crime for them to pursue is absurdly expensive. And at some point, I think there will be political pressure on the administration, not so much to protect the rights of people in D.C., but just to stop wasting money.
Yeah, so far it hasn't really materialized. So what about the presence? How has it affected immigrants here, regardless of the status, working in the U.S. Capitol? And secondly, what does it mean for boots on the ground? I mean, do we have any idea when the National Guard will leave Washington, D.C.?
I don't think we know. I think the administration has put itself into a bit of a box because it said things are so terribly bad in D.C. that you would think that they could never afford to have the National Guard leave. But since there wasn't that serious a crime problem to begin with, they can't reduce it very much. So I think the Guards troops may be around for a while. Ultimately, I think the problem is going to be employers in the states where these Guards people are coming from are going to complain about their missing workers, and the Republican governors of Ohio, South Carolina, West Virginia are going to say, let's bring our people home so they can get back to their real jobs.
Yeah. On a related measure, and we don't have a lot of time, we had a tragic shooting today, fatality. To what degree do you think the Trump administration could try to use that as more ammunition to go into various cities, especially Democratic-controlled cities, and say, look, we have to get this under control?
Well, that happened in a Republican state. And if anything, that illustrates the irresponsibility of the administration's attitudes on firearms. I don't think you can blame something that happens in Utah on the mayor of Chicago.